It was also Tesla who put man on his quest to control the weather. He developed a chilling theory for controlling the weather using extremely low-frequency waves.
This summer?
This summer.
You've succeeded in increasing rainfall?
South of San Antonio, we had aircraft flying on a dozen days in the month of July, treating what we deemed to be seedable storms.
And what was the result of that?
The same result that we've seen since it started in 1997. Some clouds respond very well. Some clouds respond only to a limited degree. Maybe one or two instances when clouds didn't respond as we had hoped, probably because we got to them too late.
And when you say they responded very well, what does that mean?
It means that the storm lived longer and produced more rain over a larger area.
It means that the storm lived longer and produced more rain over a larger area.
It is fascinating. I mean, lasers, really, to change the weather?
That's right. Well, as Mark Twain once famously said, everyone complains about the weather, but no one ever does anything about it. Well, instead of doing a rain dance, we physicists are firing trillion-watt lasers into the sky to actually precipitate rain clouds and actually bring down lightning bolts. This is potentially a game changer. When you have water vapor and you have dust particles or ice crystals, you can precipitate rain. It condenses around the seeds. These seeds can also be created by laser beams. By firing trillion-watt lasers, you rip apart the electrons, creating what are called ions, and these ions act like seeds, like dust particles, bringing down rain and even lightning.
The town the First Lady visited today, McAllen, Texas, is among many of the Texas Gulf Coast towns that have been flooded by heavy rain this week. A number of people have been rescued from their homes and cars. The governor today declared disasters in 5 counties. Here's Courtney Zabowski.
Days of heavy downpours turned these homes in McAllen, Texas into islands surrounded by floodwaters. Emergency crews used everything they had, boats and heavy construction trucks, to rescue the stranded, like Dora Hyman.
What was it like leaving on this truck with these babies?
We were glad to see somebody was helping us.
More than 150 people were carried to dry land.
It took just minutes for water to flood these homes, but it's going to take much longer to recover. As you can see, this neighborhood can't take much more rain, but more rain is predicted tonight.
Entire neighborhoods in Weslaco, Texas, underwater, roads washed away, and fish washing in going for a swim in the streets. Watch as this Texas state trooper pulls a struggling woman out of the menacing tide in Mercedes. Not far away, these 2 men, neck deep, wading through the rushing water. These aerials showing the storm's strength, more than 15 inches of rain in areas already hit hard by Hurricane Harvey.
85-year-old Francisca Ramirez, a longtime resident of Weslaco, says she's never seen it like this.
Just rain, it can't keep on coming. I'm scared.
All right, guys. Well, you're in good hands now. You're in good hands now. You're rescued.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
overwhelmed first responders,
we got other people to take out as well.
Getting a helping hand from volunteers. These good Samaritans taking Ricardo Rangel, who can't walk, to high ground. In some cases, the water's so deep, military trucks had to back up to find a different route out. Juanita Gomez asleep as the floodwaters quietly began to rise.
When I woke this morning at 8 o'clock, I stepped in the water.
You stepped right out of your bed into water?
Yeah.
Motorists stalled in deep water, breaking out glass when electric windows stopped working. Roads giving out, creating sinkholes in McAllen. Because a flood like this here is so rare, most homeowners say they have no flood insurance. Experts say the long-term drought and the sun-baked soil compounded the impact of the flood.
And this misery will likely continue. Forecasters say the threat of more flash floods will continue through the night.
And when you say they responded very well, what does that mean?
It means that the storm lived longer and produced more rain over a larger area.
This is the trolley stop. Well, it was the trolley stop. There goes a car. Oh my God, dude. I cannot even believe this right now. Oh my. Oh, that one's done, dude. I wouldn't.
Mine's still in the back.
I mean, I don't know if you'll get it out of there. It's floating, dude.
That guy's still in his car. He's standing on it.
In Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, this man trapped on top of his vehicle as water rages by.
The smell of sewage still fills the air in parts of the West End, and even though the water has receded, the problems for those homeowners are really just beginning. Many of those homeowners are saying that they don't believe city officials are helping them out. They even say that they feel like those officials have forgotten the West End Valley. The images are startling. Piles of soaked debris lining the street, kids' toys, mattresses, furniture now resting out on the curb waiting for trash pickup.
It's a shame. It's a crying shame that people out, I think it was Bethel Park or St. Clair, they got help, but we didn't. It's like we're forgot about back here.
Another neighbor said he lost his furnace, washer, dryer, and is still without electricity. So many of those in the West End now calling on city officials to help them out, saying that the raw sewage is an environmental issue and it's been more than 5 days. They are asking for city officials to send someone out to help them with the cleanup.
This looks like a portion of the block retaining wall on Bower Hill Road. Extremely large chunks of concrete, more portions of the retaining wall.
That's Bridgeville Police Chief Chad King describing all the stuff that was removed from McLaughlin Run Creek after last week's flooding. Trees, cars, dumpsters, and more all pulled from the water and piled up along Commercial Drive.
We found this car that is suspended up on nothing but 2 legs of a bar stool, and fittingly there's a cutting board leaning up against that. So this scene back behind this restaurant is crazy. Also, take a look at the video of the Outback Steakhouse in Upper St. Clair. That Outback Steakhouse was inundated with floodwaters. At that restaurant, just like this restaurant here, people that were inside dining had no choice but to stand up on their chairs in order to avoid those floodwaters. And they had to essentially swim to be rescued. They did dozens of rescues throughout the South Hills.
Dumpsters and cars as far as the eye can see were swept away in the high-rising, powerful water. Rachel Murphy watched as the storm raged.
People were waist deep, Firestone, cars floating across the median.
Rachel's employer, Zip Dry Cleaner, as well as the doctor's office were spared, but the Firestone Complete Auto Care suffered enormous loss. Employees cleaning up didn't want to talk, and neither did this young man who had dropped his car off to have work done after driving in from Washington, D.C. to see his family. We ran into him as he sees his car for the first time since the storm. It's a total loss. Nearby popular restaurants were hit hard, too. The manager of Mint Indian Cuisine showed us video from inside the restaurant last night, and today he is counting his losses.
Floor and carpet, everything we have to change.
Next door, the taco town was also hit by a deluge of water.
In 5 minutes, this is full. The water is coming that way, coming to here. Very, very, very bad. I see before.
Tables and chairs, the cooler and cookware, and all the food are gone.
Good afternoon to you. I'm Julie Grant here at the Outback Steakhouse in Upper St. Clair, one of the businesses hardest hit by those fast floodwaters that rushed in last night. Look at the building behind me. You can see just how high that watermark rose. Lots of damage here on this property.
Wendy Abbott left her vehicle after it got caught in the flood debris on the roadway, and that she was swept away by the flood as she perhaps tried to walk home up Morrow Road to her house.
With flood waters rising, Abbott's 94-year-old mother said she got a desperate call from her daughter, but she was unable to make it to the phone in time.
She said, Mom, she called me Mom, Mom, pick up, I'm in the middle of a flood. I'm in a flood. And she hung up before I could get around to answer it.
Stephen said Wendy was the lifeline for both her and her husband. She was a church deacon, she said, coming home from a meeting with friends when tragedy struck.
She kept us going in style. We could go to church or go to a bingo. It's going to be a complete loss. I don't know that I'll be able to do without her.
Well, this evening's heavy rains brought flash flooding to Grays Lake. Fast rising waters left one driver stranded under a viaduct at Route 45 and Route 137. As you can see, the flooding also brought traffic to a halt. Some drivers began turning around to understand it.
In northern Kane County, this gas station looks more like a bayou. Fast-moving floodwaters kept drivers away from the pumps.
Well, it's 6 o'clock, and I believe the rain maybe has subsided a bit. This is, or was, my office. I shared with some of the other management team, and it is underwater completely, along with all of this here. And this is what I have been doing, is trying to push some of the water out the front door. Crazy. See, as I ask the Lord to watch over us, have mercy on us. This is how we make our living, pay our bills. And this is how crazy it is. Our dumpster used to be over there, and it's floated all the way over to there. I've been in that water, and it's deep. It's very deep.
Harlan County dealing with extensive damage from flash flooding. Emergency management officials, along with a county magistrate, have declared a state of emergency in Harlan County. That is due to road damage, water and sewer line damage, and damage to private property. Some residents tell us this is the scariest situation they've had to deal with, even described it like a tidal wave coming through their community. The good news is there's been no reports of injuries.
Up and down this street in Houstonville, about 20 families had to evacuate out of their homes this morning, one even being rescued by the fire department. And just up the road at Houstonville Baptist Church, that's where fire and rescue crews have congregated for the day. As well as any family who had to evacuate, they were welcome inside. A state of emergency has been declared in the county through tomorrow as several roads and bridges were covered in water. A Houstonville fire captain says this is the worst that he's seen and talked to us about a rescue his crew made this morning.
We set up a system to keep us from going under with the water, and we weighted the water in to the residents to where we could grab the infant, where we could grab the adults and assist them out of the water.
Well, that heavy rainfall that hit areas in Barber County pretty hard last night from all those storms lasting into the morning hours. Leah Nicely is there now. She has more. She's live in Philippi.
Officials say calls started coming in just after 10 p.m. with reports of water rising in several areas throughout the county, and calls continued to get worse. I spoke to residents and officials on how the storm affected different communities.
From there, it just kept escalating. We had multiple water rescues that our first responders went to overnight. This morning we have multiple roadways, at least 15 plus roadways that are washed out completely.
This year, Barber County has been hit multiple times by heavy rains and flash flooding, and Wednesday night's rainfall came quick.
It got out of hand when we were walking across the road from our neighbors, and I pointed to my grandma that there was a hole in the bridge, and then we walked down that way a little bit, and we came back, and then a wave came through our yard.
Officials say that since the beginning of the year, between 150 and 175 calls have come in relating to high water issues and water rescues. The areas most affected by Wednesday's storm were parts of northern Philippi, Moatsville, Nestorville, and many other areas along the Barber-Tucker County line.
If you travel Route 38 into Tucker County from Barber County, the main road along with all the side roads are completely destroyed. It's going to take a lot of resources from our DOH, a lot of money, to repair these roadways.
East Coast underwater. ABC's David Curley is there with all the latest. Good morning, David.
Morning, Amy. More rain is coming. That is the bank of the river down there. We are actually up beyond that, and you can see the floodwaters streaming down this river. Already 9 to 10 inches here in Frederick. More's coming. Could be a foot of rain by the time this is over. The flood alert stands for another 24 hours. Firefighters been very busy. Nearly 500 calls, more than 100 of them rescues. A lot of folks stranded in their cars when they got caught in all this rain and water. And
Yeah, when Cooney came through town, he was met with damage just like this behind me, a pile of debris left on the side of the road after those floodwaters did recede. Now, this is video from earlier today of some of that damage. There's still some water running across streets and property that has been ripped from the ground by the amount of saturation.
These sorts of disasters are hard on people, but these communities come together. They want to help each other. They're willing to do whatever it takes. And the people I spoke to, their spirits were pretty doggone high. Yes, they've gone through a lot. They're somewhat in shock. This isn't, for some of them, it's not the first flood they've been through, but they're going to get through it. But this is tough. This disrupts people's lives.
Yeah, and he did add that there will be continued resources and continued help for people who have been affected by this flooding. And some of that help was actually at the LDS Church in Sun River earlier today. The Cascade County Health Department sanitarians were out there answering questions about contaminated wells, septic systems, and mold. Nurses were also on site giving out tetanus vaccinations for free to emergency responders and anyone impacted by flooding.
The Forest Service is asking the public to be cautious and mindful when traveling on Montana back roads after flooding. Multiple Forest Service roads in Montana have been severely impacted due to recent flooding, and drivers are advised not to attempt to cross where water is flowing. Kathy Bushnell with the Forest Service says that especially with forest roads, there may be significant debris and erosion under the water that you can't see.
And when you say they responded very well, what does that mean?
It means that the storm lived longer and produced more rain over a larger area.
What if you could fire a laser at the sky and make it rain? Oh, that sounds more interesting. Dave Malkoff explains.
Just another stormy, wet afternoon in Central Florida. But what if you could pick up all this rain and move it where it's needed? Texas or California? What if a laser could start the rain?
So you can almost use it to set it off.
Matt Mills got into lasers as a kid.
It's just innately cool.
Now he's part of a team of scientists and military backers on the cutting edge of a new technology, making lasers powerful enough to reach up here into the sky where a thunderstorm is just about to start. In the near future, a push-button storm starter could be a real thing.
I mean, lasers, really, to change the weather?
That's right. Well, as Mark Twain once famously said, everyone complains about the weather, but no one ever does anything about it. Well, instead of doing a rain dance, we physicists are firing trillion-watt lasers into the sky to actually precipitate rain clouds and actually bring down lightning bolts. This is potentially a game changer.